You're about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So today marks the second, or the going into year 3 after the Hamas massacre killed over 1,200 people in Israel, abducted multiple hostages, many of those hostages tortured, raped, starved, and killed in captivity. We're down to the final 20 hostages with bodies still remaining in Hamas control. Disgusting how this entity exists. And as we mark the 2-year anniversary, I hate the term anniversary, but the date of this happening, the tragedies of the whole entire thing. They're too numerous to count. One is the 1,200 people that were killed that day. Some of the Hamas militants, as well as some Palestinians that joined them that weren't officially a part of Hamas at the time, were dressed up as police officers. So when the concert goers, or the people at the peace concert, were running towards the police for help, the Hamas turned their guns on them and shot them down. Babies beheaded. Parents watched their kids get raped, tortured, and killed in front of them. Children's pelvises fractured from the force of the rapes. And then the war ensuing, and people in Gaza, Hamas goes and fights, and then they hide behind their women and children and citizens. And it's been 2 years of war. And on top of that, the tragedy of looking at sentiment from around the world, where rather than on October 8th of 2023, everybody coming to the aid of the hostages to get them out, it was, well, Israel brought this upon themselves. And you saw people rejoicing this. And then what you started to see on college campuses. And as I said, I think we were all in agreement. The Hamas, I think most sound-minded individuals, right, with common sense, Hamas is bad. Palestinians are trapped under their control. They've been controlling them for years. The war needs to end. The hostages need to come home. And here we are 2 years later. What the hell is the holdup? Well, we've gotten closer than we ever have, thanks to President Trump, Jared Kushner, and the Stephen Witkoff, U.S. Special Envoy, going to Egypt to try to finalize this plan. Qatar is involved. I believe Saudi Arabia. Multiple countries are involved because they want this to end. But what people think, is that many of the Arab countries are supporting Hamas. Not Iran is, but many of these countries in the nearby area want this over. They do not want a war erupting in the Middle East. And Arab countries do better when there's peace, just like Israelis. And so the thinking of, trust me, there's bad people, that are still instigating this and funding Hamas and making this worse and prolonging it. But I think the majority of level-headed individuals are like, no, this has got to end. Get the hostages out. And I mean, the condition that these 20, we have no idea if there really are 20 still alive, but just get them back. I mean, God forbid that they're dead, but we're under the assumption that there may be 20 alive. Now, Hamas might be just saying that because they, want to still use it as barter. But whatever the case, the families that have suffered in Israel need to get the bodies back. Palestinians need to be out of the control of Hamas. Palestinians need to be able to live in a war-free zone, and this whole situation has to end. I am just like I said, one of the biggest tragedies after all the blood shed, the rape, the beheading, and all the war that happened is just the world's attitude towards this. So it's Israel. Well, where was everybody October 8th? Where was everybody in 2024? Just saying, yeah, free the hostages, Hamas, please, free the hostages, thank you. That's not enough. And the fact that we let a terror group run things the way they did now for 2 years. Now, this peacekeeping plan that Trump has come up with involves Hamas basically, giving up their arms, giving up the hostages, and failing to exist or be. They get to live, but I see Hamas stalling. And it's really going to take multiple countries to go in there and say, we're done. And Hamas wouldn't have lasted this long if these other countries and Iran and everybody else didn't help fund them. And so Trump being able to get these other countries to put the pressure on this ending might actually work. I am optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but optimistic. So talks are right now going on in Egypt. There are Hamas and Israeli negotiators. Sadly, Israel is going to have to release, I believe, thousands of prisoners who were involved in the massacre. And Israel is going to have to release terrorists back into Gaza for those 20 presumably alive hostages and the bodies that are of the hostages that were killed. And giving into terrorism is not something that anybody wants to do, but we got to get it's been 2 years. We don't know what condition those hostages are. And one of the hostages, what kept him alive, he was able to be exchanged out. This was a few months ago. What kept him alive is hoping to see his family. And he didn't realize that Hamas killed his family already. I mean, this Hamas needs to cease to exist. And I don't understand why it's taken so long. And the world should have all, got behind, the cause and helped get those hostages back. And that would have eliminated 2 years of all of this. 1877 Doc Daliah, don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So everywhere I go, I smell pot. I mean, it's just, it's being used ubiquitously. I wish it smelled better. But, yeah, everywhere I go, it just stinks. I mean, you smell it. That's what I think I actually liked about Colorado, is even though Colorado was one of the first states to legalize marijuana, you're outside, you're hiking, you're mountain climbing, you're not, and so you get some fresh air. But when you're in the city, and whether it's Vegas, New York, LA, you just smell it. You go to a hotel room or a motel room, and it just reeks of it. And it's frustrating that this is where we are today, where, legalizing marijuana, which is something I supported, so people had access to something for pain, because we knew that pain medications were going to start getting limited because they were blaming the fentanyl crisis on doctors and not the cartels and drug use and nefarious groups that are, drug dealers. But I wanted it available for those who needed it. I also wanted us to study it so we could see where the medicinal health applications are, and hard to study something that's class Schedule 1 and illegal in many states. And then I also wanted the police freed up so they didn't have to be sitting there pulling people over, for small amounts of marijuana. They could, deal with the more aggressive and more violent crimes. So, yeah, I voted to legalize it. What I didn't think was going to happen is the degree of people driving under the influence, kids in high school, middle school, having access to it, people dropping out of school, not wanting to go to work. We have a big dearth of commercial truck drivers. I hear the media outlets going, why were we giving CDLs to illegal aliens and illegal migrants here? Because I'm not saying this is an excuse, but if somebody smokes marijuana or uses marijuana, they can't get a commercial driver's license. So that pool of young, strapping individuals who want to, be the backbone of America and drive trucks starting to shrink. So we were questioning the safety of marijuana in driving. And I remember initial studies coming out of Colorado going, no, we really aren't seeing an uptick. I'm like, really? Yeah, I read there are more marijuana-related car accidents. No, we're not seeing it. It's safe. Well, no. I'm watching people, get into their car. You're seeing them smoke in the parking lot and then getting into their car. And I had even suggested maybe before, it's one thing to legalize it, but maybe before we, mass, allow it and give certain people licenses so they could sell it and keep them open during the pandemic, let's at least make sure our cops have a way to do a breathalyzer or to do a test to, ensure that they aren't DUIing. And we're just not there yet. And still, here we are in 2025 with individuals getting behind the wheel. And many individuals who use marijuana products, whether they smoke them, they eat them, like in terms of edibles or baked goods, they don't feel high. Just like those who drink alcohol, they're like, I'm good. And you're looking at them going, you're stammering your speech, you're not standing still. No, you're not good. Well, we have a study coming out of Ohio looking at the growing number of marijuana users who are driving while high. And they say 40% of victims of fatal vehicle accidents over the past 6 years have had elevated levels of THC in their blood. The drug screenings were performed during the autopsy process. As you know, THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, is the psychoactive compound of the cannabis plant. That's what makes you feel euphoric, giggly, whatever. And the Wright State University-led study was, this has been reported by Fox News, and this was published in the Journal of American College of Surgeons, looked at 246 dead drivers. The researchers found that 42% of them tested positive for THC, average blood level of 30.7 nanograms per milliliter, which is a high amount. Those levels remained high over a 6-year period, despite the state recently legalizing recreational cannabis. They said the levels found in the study were far higher than the legal limit. The legal limit is 2 nanograms, not 30. Colorado, Washington, Nevada, the legal limit is 5 nanograms. So, we're seeing more and more individuals that are not caring. They're using marijuana for a variety of reasons. One, recreational, one, for sleep, one for medicinal purposes. But we're not informing people that, it's not just about drunk driving. Your marijuana can get, picked up. That can be used as evidence, and you can go to jail for a long time if you are under the influence. But people don't seem to care. I told you I was speaking at a high school, local high school. One of the kids, one of the teenagers raises her hand and says, how do I get my parents to stop smoking pot while they're driving me to school? The car fills up with smoke, and I smell a pot when I come to school. Now, does she smoke pot? And she was trying to use that as a way to say, well, blame it on my parents. But I looked at the teacher, and we got to get a hold of the parents. We got to look at this, and she said she's going to take care of it. But if parents are driving their kids to school smoking dope, this is dangerous stuff. Not to mention these kids don't want to breathe this stuff in. The pesticides, the contaminants, the metals. And so, many people feel that if they eat an edible, then it's okay because they're not smoking it. And they're not necessarily feeling as much of a high as they might with, no, it all can put you under the influence. And in fact, marijuana these days is a lot more potent. This isn't your grandfather's dope. This is a lot more potent because people got used to it. They got used to it. And in order for there to be a market and competition, somebody had to sell it stronger than another person's product. So the stuff on the market's pretty strong. And we see this in the medical realm of people having psychosis, people having severe nausea. Somebody will be having cyclical vomiting or very severe vomiting. We call it cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. Hyperemesis is multiple vomiting episodes. And I'll ask them, I go, have you used marijuana recently? And they said, yes, to control the nausea. I'm like, well, how often are you using it? Well, I'm using it a few times a day because I'm really nauseous. Well, it's building up. Another thing about marijuana is the half-life of marijuana is a lot longer. Marijuana could be in your system for days, weeks. You could pick it up on a drug test sometimes a month later, as opposed to alcohol. But people, that the word's not getting out. Once something is legal, people think, okay, well then it's good, or it's healthy, or it's. And there was a child that was killed. She was in the backseat of a car because somebody high on dope ran. I think all he had in his system was marijuana. Rams the car, kills the daughter in the backseat. So we got some work out, to cut out for us. Marijuana can dull our senses, affect our coordination, make us less astute as it pertains to rules, and it when you don't have those reflexes you need. I mean, I drive in Southern Nevada, so we have 3 main highways, and we kind of make fun of the highways where the I-15, is usually always busy and crowded like an LA highway. So you just sit there and you go maybe 5 miles an hour. You have the 95 that also gets blocked up, but you're able to still speed, but people don't follow the rules. And then you got the 215, which kind of circles the city. And we look at it like a racetrack. And I got to tell you, I see people drive on that sucker and I smell pot. Now the 215 is in a non-congested area of the city. It's out there in the desert. And for me to smell pot, not with my window closed, coming in through the car's filter system means that potency of that car that just sped by me had to have been really, really high. And some people will say, but Dr. Daliah, I can identify a marijuana smoker on the road because they drive really, really slow. Some of them will also drive fast. As much as we would like to simplify things, saying, well, somebody on alcohol is going to swerve, whereas somebody with marijuana is going to be driving paranoid, and not entirely, because there's different strains. Some of the strains of marijuana are more stimulating, some are more relaxing, but these falling asleep at the wheel, is it somebody who's sleep deprived? Is it somebody who had a stroke? Or is it somebody who, has too much cannabis in their system? And also, people who use marijuana may not understand that it's additive and cumulative. So whatever you're getting in your system today is going to still be there tomorrow, still be there Friday, still be there next Monday. So as you're adding more, you're having a higher blood content and tissue content. So quit driving stoned. We really need to be able to test a lot easier than we do. And just stop the crap. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So, I talk about personal stuff on the show because I want you guys to realize that I'm not just sitting here saying do as I do, or do as I say, not as I do. I walk the walk too. And I've been maybe a little dishonest with you guys, not on purpose, but I haven't really felt anxious, depressed about a lot of things. And over the last 16 years, almost 17 years of my show, I've been, telling you about how somehow my coping mechanisms are good. I exercise, I get some sun. The other day, I was having some issues with, we have, my family, not my sons and husband, but my family they're pretty toxic. And so I was getting a little frustrated with them. So I go outside, get a little bit of sun, walk the dogs, come back inside, and I feel happy again. And I've been, teaching you guys some of my coping mechanisms that have really worked. But then I come to find out after I go to the dentist that I must be really stressed out. And it was interesting because for years, dentists are like, do you have stress? Are you stressed out? Like, no, actually, no. I mean, compared to medical school, compared to growing up with my parents and all that, I'm blessed. I'm too blessed to be stressed. No, not. Well, this last time I went to the dentist. Well, one of the reasons why I went to the dentist is I'm eating something and I feel something hard. And I'm like, wow, I must have lost a filling. And it ends up, it wasn't a filling. It was a piece of bone off my tooth. One of the cusps that I must have, with all my, I guess, years of tooth grinding, have broke down. And my teeth are ground down to almost the gum. Now, yes, the tooth does, there is the gum line and there is subterranean of your tooth. But I've destroyed my teeth with my grinding. Now, if you ask me, am I stressed? No, but this last time when the dentist, I go, well, yeah, I got, my family there's this happening, and, the hostages, well, it's apparently manifesting in ways. And I didn't think I was suppressing because your body will find pressure points, release points. And I guess I'm doing that in my sleep. Now, I know I've been grinding my sleep for years because my husband would say he could hear him. He can't hear me grind my teeth anymore. So I thought, okay, then I don't have the problem anymore. Well, why hasn't he for years heard me grind my teeth? Because there's no friction. The teeth are flat. So because I've ruined most of my fillings, which, by the way, I had fairly decent dental care. The one thing I do have to credit my mom for is making sure we went to the dentist, even when we didn't have money, for rent and other things. She made sure we somehow got to the dentist, always brushed her teeth because she had bad teeth. And she says, you definitely don't want a life worth of bad teeth. And so I was very grateful for that, even though I really couldn't stand those fluoride treatments. Remember, you had to, this ucky gel in a tray, and you had to hold onto the tray with your teeth and let the gel soak in, and it was really disgusting. And I couldn't stand those treatments, and I'd be crying and drooling. So I hated going to the dentist. But fortunately, I don't have a lot of cavities. I brush my teeth a lot. I try to keep my sugar to a minimum. I should dental floss more and water pick more. But the teeth grinding, I know a lot of you all do it. A lot of you also may be grinding your teeth and clenching when you potty. I'm starting to be more aware of that. And I'm thinking about starting to use my night guard when I go to the bathroom. I don't think I grind, but something's happening. Now, night guards are a godsend, but the trick is you have to use them. I don't like using them. I can't sleep with something in my mouth. And I cough and it just, I need to, I guess, come up with a night guard that'll stay. I did have a dentist created formed night guard, and I ground right through it within a year. And so those are expensive. So I kind of have stalled on, on getting more night guards, but I definitely recommend you do that. But another thing I also recommend is, if you're like me going, oh, I'm happy-go-lucky, I'm good. Nothing's getting me down. I feel great. I don't know what everybody's stressed out about. I'm good. Ain't no thing but a chicken wing. No, you need to look for other signs of stress. You can check your biomarkers, check your heart, your stomach lining. A lot of people don't realize that their acid reflux is a sign of their stress. Skin picking. A lot of people will go after their skin and unfortunately, scar themselves, or they'll pull out their hair, or they'll keep playing with something like their cuticles. And as a doctor, we learn to, discover ways that might not be obvious. When somebody says, no, I'm not depressed, I'm not anxious, I'm good, I could tell if you're chewing your nails. I could tell by your teeth. I could tell. And so make sure you let your doctor know that you are, if you are stressed, and ask them to look at parts of your body that might not necessarily be apparent to you that might be showing elements of stress. Because we talk about in terms of good health, you need to have your cholesterol good, you need to have your blood sugar down, you need to have your no high blood pressure, but we always say, you got to cut the stress. I'm like, okay, yeah, cut the stress. Okay, I'll make sure I go on vacation. I'll sit by the pool. I'll watch a Netflix movie. Why do we bring up stress? Because stress kills. And I keep bringing up that Indiana Jones comment, where he said it's not the years, it's the miles. And I feel like I have a lot more miles on me than my biological age should. And whether it was medical school, whether it was my family, whether it was, I just, I took on a lot of stress. And I took on other people's stress. Don't worry, I got this. Don't worry, I got this. I've taken on so much more than I could chew. Did I really have to graduate college in 4 years with no money? So I took all the classes I could, summer classes, worked multiple part-time jobs. Did I really have to do that? By the time I got to people said, gosh, you went to medical school young. You were just turning 22. And I was a 40-year-old by the time I got into medical school. In terms of my attitudes and my experiences, it was just, while everybody, sleeps how many hours a day, all that extra time was me working or dealing with BS or getting dumped or who knows. And so we really cannot underestimate the amount of stress we've put our bodies through. And when I hear people, they get diagnosed with cancer or they get diagnosed with heart disease or liver disease, I'm like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. I did. But what about the stress? Even the most health conscious people may be vulnerable to that. And so how do you limit the stress? I mean, one thing that's going to help me is the hostages coming home, is the country not being so divided. The lies that I see people do. We're going to be talking about what happened with senators, Republican senators being wired, being tapped. This kind of stuff really stresses me. But we'll talk about stress a little bit later, in the show. But limiting it is paramount to our health. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Tuning in, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. I dare somebody to tap my phone. When I think somebody's listening in, oh my gosh, I would screw with you so badly. The stuff I would make you listen to, I would torture you. I could torture somebody by saying things that they don't want to hear. I'm actually really, really good at it, where I could get really, really descriptive about a medical case, or something. I mean, how many times have I turned your all stomachs, right? I have some skill in that if the CIA ever needs. But it's very frustrating to think that somebody could have been listening in on private conversations, work conversations, as we saw what happened here where Special Counsel Jack Smith, former Special Counsel Jack Smith, was allegedly spying on political opponents during the January 6th probe, and where they tapped multiple senators' phones. According to Fox News, the FBI, working under Smith's direction, obtained call logs and metadata tied to nearly a dozen GOP senators, including Hawley, as part of its investigation into the Capitol riot. They said the tracking involved call records and timestamps, but not allegedly the content of the conversations. Really, I'm sure they listened in. Senator Josh Hawley's pretty upset about it. I don't blame him. Told Fox News Digital and at the Pam Bondi hearing today that he wants a huge investigation on this, and I don't blame him. The newly released document suggests it was Biden's administration that was spying on the president's political opponents, which he called, quote, a profound violation on the separation of powers. He said the activity fits what he views as part of a broader pattern of executive overreach under Biden, citing alleged surveillance of Catholic churches, parents at school board meetings, and social media censorship. He says the truth comes out. Biden, Stasi, who claimed to have been saving our sacred democracy, in fact, worked overtime to destroy it, all for power, spying on Catholic churches, prosecuted pro-lifers, deployed the FBI agent or the FBI against parents at school board meetings, and tried to tap the phones of their political enemies, including mine. He says this is an abuse of power beyond Watergate, beyond J. Edgar Hoover, one that directly strikes at the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the First Amendment. He says we need a full investigation of all involved, who knew about it, who ordered it, who approved it. Anyone and everyone who violated the law must be prosecuted. And the way to save this country is to restore the rule of the law. Now, the fact that something like this happened, Marsha Blackburn, Senator Washington from Wisconsin, Senator Hagerty, Senator Loomis from Wyoming, Senator Lindsey Graham. These are people that were tracked by Jack Smith. I don't know where Jack Smith is. You don't see him these days. I don't want to see him. But something like this where I keep telling you guys, don't let politics ruin you. Don't let politics ruin you and your family. Don't take politics so seriously. The problem is when this type of stuff happens, it does scare the hell out of you. If you have the wrong person in power, they could do some disgusting things, allegedly. And they could literally, make it happen such that no other political parties could later win. I mean, we have a lot of checks and balances. But as we saw with the last administration, what did they do with the border? Well, what we'll do is we'll just bring a lot more voters in. That's how we'll do that. And, we need to get the credit. So here's a Biden shirt. Now, okay, really? And then, we're going to allow mail-in ballots. Well, why would you do that? Most other, countries don't do that because there's room for fraud. No, that's not, that's not the safest way to vote. And, you can ask for a mail-in ballot, a provisional ballot, which we've done for years. No. The default is going to be the mail-in ballot. So let's just flood the post offices and the mailboxes with ballots. Well, that's not very safe. And then, when you start to kind of add all this stuff up, now they want to pack the courts. They want to make D.C. its own state. They want, the gerrymandering that's been done all these years. It is kind of frightening. And I want in America, I don't want a Republican or a Democrat-owned country. I want a country where we have diversity of idea and thoughts and democratic, but also common sense and safe. And so if you have gang members and Tren de Aragua and cartel members that got in illegally, it should be a slam dunk, and everybody should be in agreement that they should be deported. I mean, when you look at Bill Clinton, when you look at Hillary Clinton, when you look at, their time previously in government and how they had advocated against, removing illegal immigrants, and even not at the time, these were cartel members or criminals. Now they have a different tune. Another thing that kind of hit the headlines today, which I really haven't been able to dive into, but this was kind of breaking, is they say allegedly that President Biden ordered a CIA cover-up of his quote-unquote corrupt business ties to Ukraine. CIA Director John Ratcliffe declassified a memo after a review of historical records from Biden's tenure as vice president. And I guess the top secret document, according to Daily Mail, highlights how Ukrainian government officials were uneasy about Biden's visits to the country during the Obama years. The dossier details how officials in Kiev privately raged at Biden for coming to their nation to lecture them about corruption whilst Hunter sat on the board of a Ukrainian gas company. So officials believe that the position held by the VP's son showed that there was a double standard in the U.S. government regarding corruption in politics. There was also a portion of an email which states that then Vice President Biden would strongly prefer the report not be disseminated. The email was signed PDB Briefer. PDP stands for Presidential Delay Briefing, a daily intelligence report compiled by the president by U.S. intelligence agencies. And so, more is going to be coming out on this, but this is what frustrates people in terms of if we're going to elect an official and donate money and go through the process of trusting them, do it by the book. And that's not what happens. The reality of it is we have crooks and more crooks, and it's just overflowing. And one of the reasons why President Trump won twice is because he was the non-politician. I know the other side thinks he's a crook, but we need somebody who's not the typical politician. We're sick of this. And unfortunately, you get the wrong person in power who's corrupt, or somebody who's a puppet for whoever is running things and whoever has control of the auto pen, and it's pretty scary. Look at how Justice Brett Kavanaugh fortunately was not assassinated by somebody plotting, flies into Dulles, goes to his house, sees 2 U.S. Marshals there, so decides to abort the plan, then decides to turn himself in. And what happens to that person? 8 years. Because he's transgender and they want to make sure he gets the treatment he needs. And there's double standards in law. There's anybody plotting to kill anybody. I don't think 8 years is appropriate for anyone. Yes, he turned himself in. That was nice that he did that. And yeah, he gets some credit as opposed to life in prison, but still, come on. So we'll see what happens with this. Obviously, the investigation is ongoing. We'll keep you posted, but I'm just of the mindset that now I think I'm just going to grind my teeth somewhere. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.